Millions of players have abandoned online worlds over the years. Entire cities, economies, entire digital societies left behind, frozen in time. But there's something most people never think about. Not the games that died, but the people who stayed. Because in some of these worlds, they don't all leave. Sometimes, only a handful remain. And the question is simple. Why are they still there? When we think about online games shutting down, we imagine empty servers and a shutdown notice, a clean ending. But that's not how it usually happens. Most online worlds don't die all at once. They fade. Players slowly disappear, updates stop, forums go quiet, communities shrink until they become something unrecognizable. And somewhere in that decline, a strange thing happens. A few people remain, not because they have to, but because they choose to. The Wanderers. Imagine logging into a world like this. A once busy hub that used to be full of movement. Now, nothing. You walk through streets that once had hundreds of players passing through them. No trade chat, no groups forming, no noise, just the sound design of an empty system trying to pretend it's still alive. And then you notice something strange. A player online. Then another. Not many, but enough to make you wonder what they're still doing here. The remaining players in these worlds are rarely random. They usually fall into patterns. Some are historians. They document everything, screenshots, maps, memories, trying to preserve what's already disappearing. Some are loyalists. They refuse to leave a place that shaped part of their life, even if no one else is there, and some don't even see it as empty. To them, the world didn't die. It just became quieter. But there's something deeper going on. Because when you remove the crowds, you start to see what a world is made of. And surprisingly, for many people, that's enough. So why stay in a dead world? The answers aren't simple. For some, it's routine. A place they return to the same way someone visits an empty hometown. For others, it's identity. They aren't just playing a game anymore. They're maintaining a version of themselves that only exists there. And for a few, it's about connection. Because even in an empty world, there might still be one or two others who show up. People they've known for years. People who stayed just as long as they did. And at that point, leaving doesn't feel like quitting the game. It feels like losing a place that still means something. But the most unusual part of all this is that these worlds don't officially end for a long time. Servers stay online, systems keep running. Nothing actively stops them from existing. They just decay into silence. Which means somewhere out there, there are still living worlds with functioning systems that almost nobody visits. Digital spaces waiting for an ending that already happened socially, not technically. And sometimes no one tells the last players that the world has already moved on. But there's another explanation that doesn't get talked about as much, because not everyone who stays in a dying world is doing it out of nostalgia or loyalty or curiosity. Sometimes it's something more unsettling. In a shrinking online world, you start to notice patterns. A player who is always online at the same time every day, never speaks, never moves far from a single location, never logs off. At first, it feels like dedication, but over time it starts to feel different. Because in a world with almost no one left, silence becomes noticeable. And the absence of behavior becomes behavior itself. Some communities have reported players who seem stuck in routines that don't change for months. Not because they're role-playing, not because they're preserving anything, but because they may have simply never left. Not in the emotional sense, but in the literal one. Accounts abandoned but still active. Characters left running in forgotten corners of a world no one checks anymore. And when a world gets empty enough, those players start to feel less like people you're sharing a space with and more like something left behind. Or something that refuses to stop existing just because no one is watching anymore. That's when the question shifts. It's no longer just, why are they still here? It becomes, how long have they actually been here? So maybe the real question isn't why they stay. Maybe it's what it means to be the last person in a place that used to be alive. At what point does a world stop being a game and start becoming a memory you can still walk through? Because in the end, these aren't dead games, they're abandoned places. And someone is still standing inside them.